Here we go. Hi, I'm talking with Nils. He is a premier jazz guitarist. And let me give you a bit of background. I have been a musician or music fan since I was 5 years old. I mean, I came in with the British invasion in the 60s. Now I'm dating myself and all the way up through Led Zeppelin, the Stones, Aerosmith, all that stuff. And in the late 70s, I got hooked on jazz with the Rippingtons and the Pat Metheny group with Lyle Mays. And I discovered this guy, his song Pacific Coast Highway, just by chance on YouTube. And it has that groove that just, the hook that gets you. And it's a perfect driving song. If you're going anywhere, you have the top down, you got your girlfriend or wife with you or the dog, and it just has that infectious groove. And I am pleased to welcome Nils.
Hey, thanks, Bob. Thanks for having me over.
It's great to talk to you. I've seen you play a couple of times, and if you want a good time, and not just because I know Nils, this guy puts on a good show. He makes everybody feel welcome, and he has a lot of audience participation, and you get the clapping, and then when he breaks into Pacific Coast Highway, everybody's like, yes, we know that song. We love that song. Tell me a little bit. You're from Munich, correct?
That's right. I grew up in Munich, and I came to the States in the mid-'80s just to go to school. Wanted to stay for a year, and still here.
What now you on your bio, I know you were a big Deep Purple fan with Ritchie Blackmore.
That was my first guitar hero, yeah.
Who are your other guitar heroes?
Well, it changed over the years. It started with Ritchie Blackmore and Deep Purple. That's when I was a high school kid, junior high and stuff like that, was into that kind of stuff. Then later, I got into Steve Lukather is still one of my, I think, all-time greatest players. I got heavily into Jeff Beck. I don't like his music that much. I love his playing, though. What he does to the guitar is ridiculous. I'm also a big admirer of Larry Carlton, Robin Ford.
Yes.
Eric Johnson, then on the bluesier side, Stevie Ray Vaughan, of course, and Gary Moore, one of my favorites. So all with these guys, I think those would be my main influences, I would say. When I came over to the United States, I went here to go to GIT, so I got influences from Frank Gambale and Scott Henderson, who taught there at the time, and they were more like the fusion players, and it kind of gave me all that, everything taken together is really what makes up my style, picking things from every one of them.
That was my next question. So you basically you'll pick from each guitarist, and you've developed your own sound, your own tone, and the way you play.
Yeah, that's what most of us do. I mean, you get influences from different places, and when you learn, it's like think of it this way: you kind of like you have a favorite song, and you listen to that guitar solo, it's just killer, and you're trying to figure out how to play it, and hopefully you're successful in figuring out how to do it, and you practice it, and you get it under your fingers. And that's just another tool. Oh yeah, that's a great line, and hopefully you can apply it to some other music that you use, in different contexts, and you get all these different lines under your fingers, and it adds up. You bring it's even if you're playing a different style, it's somewhere in the background, stuff that you always can fall back on.
When I was a kid, I remember when Led Zeppelin 4 came out, and I dropped the needle on When the Levee Breaks. I went, WTF is this? I must have played that thing 15 times. And like you were saying, I was picking up what Jimmy Page was doing with John Bonham. And the way those two played together, they could just look at each other and knew which way they were going. And you have that same thing with Tony Saunders, your bass player. I've seen you guys play a couple of times, and Tony, you look at you and you look at Tony, and boom, there it is. And it's like, I don't know how, it's like that musical, you can talk with your instruments.
Yeah, it's the musical understanding between musicians. Music is its own language, which makes it so universal and great, because it breaks down all the language barriers. You can communicate through music and touch people that come from a total different culture and a different language. and it breaks all that down. So that's what I love about doing music in the first place.
Yeah, music, to me, it's music, sports, and travel. I mean, I've got it all. And like I said, I got hooked on jazz in the late '70s, and to hear some of the players out there and what they do, it just like, especially Pat Metheny, he takes you into a different. Every song is different, and that's a lot with you. But the one thing I've noticed about your music, you sing a lot. A lot of your stuff, you play a lot of, to me, driving tunes, and cityscapes like Detroit Strut. Tell me about Detroit Strut.
Detroit Strut. I wrote in a hotel room in Detroit. That's where the name came from.
Okay.
It was one of the, it's like you travel and you show up in some hotel room, and I don't know anybody in Detroit, and so I'm just sitting around the hotel rooms. I just picked up my guitar and jammed and came up with this great groove. And so I, got the laptop with me anyway, so I just put it in there and said, let me put that thing down, and so I don't forget it. And then I came back home and worked on it. And it's some of these songs, they're not, it's like I'm trying to stylistically. I don't think it's necessarily like really in the middle of smooth jazz, but I'm not trying to do that anyways. I mean, when I do albums, there's a lot of stuff that smooth jazz radio will like, but I always to spread out a little bit and do songs that are a little bit left of center, just to broaden the spectrum. I always say I'm a guitar player. I'm not a smooth jazz guitar player. I'm a guitar player first, and I want to be known for that.
And you have a lot of funk in your songs too. You can pick it up.
I love
And,
funk
and,
music.
and yeah, exactly. I'm a big R&B Motown guy. I love that '60s stuff, and you can pick it up in your playing, and especially when you're with Tony. I mean, he's right there, and it's like I said, if you get the chance, you have to go see Nils live. You will not be disappointed. It's a fun time, and Nils speaks to you through his music. He also talks during the show, but he kind of brings you into the show. He includes his audience into a lot more than a lot of people do. Most musicians and bands are like, "Hi, yeah, this is da 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 da," and But Nils brings it in, and he talks to you, and he gets a few jokes in there, here and there, and it's a lot of fun.
You have to entertain, right?
You have to, exactly. You're an entertainer.
Good time, yeah.
Did you ever think that this would ever happen to you? Like when you were a kid growing up in Munich, did you ever think that you would have albums out and you would be a celebrity and known?
I was hoping. But, this is the kind of stuff you can't really, you work for it. That's kind of came to the United States because it looked like growing up in Germany that didn't really seem to be a realistic option. Most of the kids that I grew up with that did music, they ended up doing, cover bands, playing corporate parties, stuff, that kind of stuff. But become an artist, it's very rare. There are some, but they're usually like German singers that speak native language, and it's restricted to that little that language barrier for one thing. You basically restricted in that audience. And there's maybe 2 or 3 bands. Thinking of Scorpions, Kraftwerk, and maybe Nena with 99 Luftballons was one hit that became internationally known. And I know there's a few others, but they're far in between. So coming to the United States for me made it possible to become an artist, do my own music, and do what I do, and I'm grateful for that.
We are too. I mean, it's like I said, if you have such great driving tunes, and one of my favorites that I've never heard you play live, and I don't know if you do, is Cruisin'.
I used to play Cruisin' live. It's an old one, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was from 20 some odd years ago, but you put that on and it's like, okay, I can go up 395 cruising up to Mammoth, and there is something about what you do that brings that infectious groove. It's like you want to crank that thing up as loud as it'll go, and you're enjoying life.
Yeah, Cruisin' actually, I wrote it when I was in '85, when I was at GIT.
Wow.
And it's based on a chord substitution that Frank Gambale showed me for a 2-5-1 in minor, using that flat 6 major 7 sharp 5 chord instead of the 2 chord. and having a certain voice leading there, and that kind of opened up the the beginning of that melody. And also sometimes you come up with these even songs happen in a crazy way. Pacific Coast Highway I got a new keyboard at the house that somebody lent me, and I played two chords, and the sound I found the sound that was so amazing, this motion sound that you hear in the beginning of the song, and it was called G major B minor until mastering, because it's really just two chords, and then by changing the bass line the tonality changes, but on top the two chords are really just two chords going back and forth. So you have these songs that a lot of these ideas come from a small germ, and it's funny to look back onto songs that lived for that long and did something, came out on a record and been downloaded and played by many people. And I would think back from the moment that I created them, and I don't even know if I created them, that just, it came out of me. I always let the stuff flow through me and see wherever it leads me, and just try to follow and keep up with what comes out, trying to find that thread. You have the first idea is always fragile, and trying to nail that. And it's sometimes a challenge. It's a fun, research, so to speak.
Did you carry a little tape recorder around like Keith Richards did when he wrote Satisfaction, when he fell asleep and then he wrote the riff to it and fell back asleep, and then there was all that snoring on the tape?
Well, like we said, in case of Detroit Strut, I did that, lose the laptop in the hotel room. I remember one, what was that song? It's called Sunset in Munich. That song I heard in my head while I was driving to a friend's. We were supposed to go to the movies, and I know if I go to his house, we're probably going to get stoned, and then we're going to go to the movies. By the time I get home, I get the tune. So when I went to his house, I asked him, "Do you have a little?" I mean, at that time, they have a Walkmans and stuff.
Oh yes.
Or some kind of a tape recorder available. So I kind of sang this fragile idea, or heard the bass groove and the way it's supposed to go, and the melody kind of in my head, but I couldn't totally nail it down yet, but at least I wanted to have some reference. And sure enough, then later that night when I got home, I was able to rebuild it and build that song from that little nucleus of an idea that I did hold onto at that time, and it helped me create the tune.
It's amazing how like just a little riff or like a little, like you said, a little bass line, and all of a sudden it starts building. It's like, okay, we can add this and we can add this, and then all of a sudden you start, the song starts to take form. It's a fascinating process that most mortal humans who can't play guitar or drums or bass or whatever, they just are blown away by how you people can create something. David Gilmour is a perfect example. I mean, he was the heart and soul of Pink Floyd. Just to listen to the way he played, and you are like, you remind me a little bit of Gilmour, because you can make your instrument talk. There's guitar players out there that run up and down the neck, the Eddie Van Halens, they're great, but there's very few that can make it talk and communicate, and that's what you do. And I find that fascinating.
Oh, thank you. As a matter of fact, I wrote a book, that it's called How to Make Your Guitar Talk.
Really?
Yeah, I have an instructional book out. Actually, I'm working on more instructional stuff right now. I'm producing a video series, how I incorporate Logic Pro into my live show, how to use it, because I got to figure out a system how to make dynamic live backing tracks.
Exactly.
Or production tracks, I call them, because sometimes we're playing with a 5-piece band, but then to really do what I wanted to do, I would need maybe 9 musicians on stage. So the other missing 3 guys are coming from the computer. It would be like a second keyboard player, maybe a rhythm guitar player that's not there, that kind of stuff, or some sound effects. And but I don't want to be locked in. I still want to have that dynamic. So if we want to go and solo a little long, if I go out in the audience, I don't want to have to count like 16 bars to be back up on stage.
Exactly.
So I need to have a dynamic, and I developed a system with a foot switch that controls Logic to basically control the song form in a way that I can use it dynamically live and still use the enhanced experience of adding additional backing, additional parts that we don't play live, that we play along with. So it's another player on stage, so to speak, that who I control. So.
And you play off your audience a lot too. I've noticed that, when I've been at your shows, you really interact with the audience. You kind of lock in on people when you're playing, especially when you're walking through the
Yeah.
crowd. And people love that. They love, that's what was taken away, back when we were going to gigs, with say like Aerosmith or whatever. They never got into the audience like you do. And another buddy of mine, Craig
The
Chakis,
bigger audience that they have, let's be real.
yeah,
If I had 50,000 people in front of me, I don't think it would go into the audience.
They could hook you up to one of those cables and fly you across, like
yeah, maybe that, or do like the Stones do it, have a little island.
Oh yeah,
where
Woody. Yeah, where they all come out. Yeah,
Mm.
that's I mean, you gotta think the Stones. I mean, they're in their mid-70s now and they're still doing it. It's just like,
Mm-hmm.
wow. I hope I can walk when
what else you gonna do? It's fun. I'm sorry.
No, it's great.
I'm not. I'm. Like musicians die when they stop playing. And they don't until they die. So it's like and the Stones are on the level where they can travel, where they're not in the back of a bus in a cheap motel and all that kind of stuff, having to hold their guitars and gear. They just travel there in style, and everything is set up, and they're just going up and enjoying the fun part. The whole thing about gigging, I always say, what you pay me for is the travel and the hassle of getting there and rehearsing and all that kind of stuff. That the actual playing, well, that's the fun part.
Do you ever? I know when you have sound check before every show. Do you guys just like go off on a different tangent? Like say you'll play Detroit Strut or something,
Mm-hmm.
as you're warming up, and then do you guys like ever go off into a different tangent, like you and Tony and the rest of your band, go in a different direction with the song, or you just play it like straight through?
It kind of depends on the song. If I do use tracks on a song, I cannot go too far away. I can make certain sections longer or shorter, but I couldn't like change the tempo or go somewhere completely different, unless it's pre-planned,
right,
and put in. Other songs, like we're doing a song called Brazilian Dance sometimes, that we play without a track, and there we can go back and we can go into different areas. But even the whole thing about, even I'm saying with tracks, what happens sometimes that we play a song and we finish it and we play the song with a track, and then just for the fun of it, the drummer just picks the beat back up and we start going into a jam, extending the end without the tracks, and we're totally free. Yeah, because I never. I like the technology, and because I'm a producer, I want to present the sound that I envision for the song for the audience. That's why I'm doing tracks, or incorporate some of the tracks into my show. Let's say it that way. But I don't want to be locked in musically. I want to still be basically going left and right, and sometimes I just might stop it and break down in a total different way. You're right, this can happen.
Yeah, you don't want to be pigeonholed as one type of guy, and like we said, you do a lot of yours is jazz funk. You've got the you've got the smooth jazz element that all the radio stations, they love that. But like you said, you go in different directions, which it makes it great, because listening to your CDs, you'll pick up, wow, that is really cool. I wonder how he did that on a different song, and then a completely different song, you'll like that just as well. Which what you're doing is expanding your listening audience's mind and what they hear. You know what I mean? Song for song. Because each song is totally different.
But I give the audience more credit than most of the radio formats. As far as what they can handle sonically and what they will enjoy. A lot of people have a different style. They might prefer one over the other, but it's not like if you're playing something different, then that they would look, wouldn't like it, wouldn't enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. And you've played up here at Yoshi's how many times? Several times now. And it's a small club atmosphere, and it's I know the stage is as big as a postage stamp. It's like, how the hell do you get all your guys on there? It's really tight, but it's a great atmosphere. And to me, the
That's good.
smaller clubs are so much better than the bigger venues.
It's more intimate, yeah, and you're closer to the audience. That's fun. Um, and it all depends. And then usually in the club atmosphere, you're a little bit more relaxed as far as you have hopefully a good sound check. You have time to get it all right and feel good about it. Um, Sometimes on the big festivals, you don't have time for a sound check. There's a line check, to make sure there's a signal on each instrument, and then you just gotta go, and sometimes it can sound really really crappy. You just gotta trust that the sound engineer out front makes it sound right, even though you can't hear everything the way you want it on stage. But that's where the professionalism comes in. You gotta just deal with it and roll with the punches.
Is there a song? Give me what's your favorite song that you've ever recorded?
Um,
The one that you go, that is me. I nailed it. This is perfect.
uh,
Or
I would say Call of the Sirens is definitely one of those. Call of the Sirens really um, um, uh, is a lot. I mean, I love playing the song. It's totally fun for me. There's many songs where I'm very happy about. Catnip will be another one.
yes.
Coast to Coast is another one, especially with the live version is coming across really nice. And you can put down, of course, Pacific Coast Highway was a bullseye, and there wasn't the only one. I had like actually Jumpstart.
Yes.
Jumpstart was longer number one on Billboard than Pacific Coast Highway was. It's just at that time we already lost half of the radio stations, so it never got as much spins as Pacific Coast Highway did.
What about a song that you've written that you thought, okay, this is a can't miss, and it wasn't as popular as you thought it was?
Two of a Kind.
Really,
Yeah, Two of a Kind I thought would be a bigger hit. Ready to Play would be another one.
I like that song.
Yeah.
What about Jazz Cruise?
Jazz Cruise, I was hoping, and maybe I was too on the nose. I called it Jazz Cruise because at that time the cruises were just getting really popular, and I want to say maybe I write a song for it and get some gigs that way. And also had invited a sax player, Schiltz, to be a guest musician and to jam with me on it. So it certainly had all the ingredients. But yeah, it didn't. I mean, it did something on radio, but it didn't. It wasn't like the huge hit that some of the other songs were that I had.
Yeah, I know it is kind of funny how you think something like Jazz Cruise
But
is.
the whole thing too is you can only write a song and make it as good as you want, but there's no guarantee that it becomes a hit because there's other things that come into play. It has to do with politics, has to do with timing, has to do with luck. For instance, we did on the last record, Play, we had Straight Down the Line, and it was taking on really good momentum, but one of the biggest station, the Seabreeze station down there, decided to play another song, California, instead. And they played the shit out of it, but everybody else was on Straight Down the Line. So then when we came up with California as a second single, it actually went up into the Billboard Top 10. But by that time, the Seabreeze station already had played it enough and they were going off the song. So if the timing would have been right, that all stations played at the same time, it could have been another number one hit. But just because of that unlucky timing, it only went top 10. But it was a good hit. But it could have been mega if it happened had different rate, and you have no influence over that. You can't. Could also be that another guitar player, a big artist releases a big song at the same time, and you're competing with that, and there's just so many variables that can happen. So there's a certain luck factor involved with having huge hits. But the bassists always have a good song to start with, so you have much better chances.
You mentioned Steve Lukather, and
Mhm.
you did a copy of Georgie Porgy.
Yeah,
What led you to pick that song? Because Toto has so many great songs, and he, like you said, he's a phenomenal player.
yeah.
He's so underrated. You know, when they talk guitar players, a lot of people don't know who Steve Lukather is. But if you know, listen to Toto, you go, "That's the guy."
Yeah, well, not only to Toto, he was one of the most recorded guitar players in the 80s. When he played for Earth, Wind& and Fire, for Michael Jackson, for everybody needed a rock guitar solo in the 80s was basically, that was Steve Lukather on all the records, if you look at it, from Bo Skaggs to anybody. On the pop side, you know, he just had that sound. He was, you know, absolute phenomenal. I chose Georgie Porgy because it had that kind of funky, that it has a certain smoothness to it. You
Mhm.
know,
Yeah,
it's a song that could be treated in a different way, and I put a funk beat underneath it, and I always look for material that I can give my own spin. You know, I never. Um, I'm a big Earth, Wind& and Fire fan.
as am
I
I.
never cover the Earth, Wind& and Fire song because I wouldn't want to, you know, give it a different take than it's already there, and I don't feel like I don't want to do karaoke tracks. Like, you know, a lot of criticism I have in the style that there's too many uh, players just take a song and they just make a copy of the original and then put a sax on top of it instead of a voice, you know. And if I do a cover, it needs to have its own little atmosphere. I want to bring something new to that the original didn't have. And with Earth and Fire, it's tough because you know, the way I would do it is exactly how they did it, so there wouldn't be any difference, and it would be just a copy. So I think it's pointless.
You also did on PCH. You also used a Carole King song. You've got a friend, you know. And Carole
Yeah.
King in the '70s was like, you know, she was up there with all of her songs that she wrote.
Mm.
She was so huge in the '70s. What made you pick that? Is it basically the same thing?
The same thing. I came up with I found a nice vibe that worked with the song, putting this R&B loop underneath the song that I felt worked really well. And you know, it's just like I found an approach, you know, that sounded interesting to me, and that is something that you know, bring a new version out to that song.
Did Carol or Steve ever get back to you or message you or get a message to you like, "Hey, I like what you did with my song. Thank you."
No, I haven't heard from them yet.
Okay, we got to get on that. We got to call Steve. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah, no, I haven't reached out to them or send them the version. You know, I figured a lot of people covered their song, so they're probably just grateful that they keep getting the royalty checks every month.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, as long as that check comes in, they're happy, you know.
Yeah,
And you know, with this pandemic going on, you just released your new album, "Caught in the Groove," and
yeah,
it is really, really good. I recommend
yeah,
anybody who likes smooth jazz or jazz and jazz funk, pick it up. And here's the copy. And that, if you notice the photograph, I'm going to plug myself a little. I was at his
yeah.
show in Oakland at Yoshis, and I brought I asked him if I could bring my camera, and he said, by all means. So I sent him a ton of photos, and he graciously has my photo on his cover, which I am thrilled to death. I can't thank you enough for that. It's on the
It
wall, you know.
was a win-win. It was a win-win situation. I liked the photo, and you know, I was like, yeah, this works. This will work, and the label liked it, so we went with it. So
Yeah,
thank
that's
you.
the thing. We got to do it again then. We got to figure
All
something
right.
else out. Now with this pandemic going on, you just released this. So what are you doing now? You're working on stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it is tough because it cut down half my business. You know, all the
Yes.
live business is dead. I still got a little production business going on because I have, fortunately, I do have the studio here in the house, and I can produce and do records here at home. But even that slowed down because people are worried about money and spending money.
Yeah.
What I did do though is I started a show I call Nils Live from Home. I broadcast every Saturday night from Facebook Live. If you want to see it, you just follow Nils Guitar on Facebook. So it's facebook.com Nils Guitar. It's one word, Nils Guitar. And I usually repost it on YouTube and on my Facebook page if somebody cannot watch it live at 6 p.m. On Saturday. But that's been a lot of fun. It's been a new experience, and I think we talked about this before. That I think I'm trying to take the positive out of this bad situation, and if the one thing I can take out of it, that I finally got my behind in gear and to master this technology. I know it was there and we had access to it, but it was always seemed like, oh, okay, it's too much hassle. And now I have no choice. I got to kind of bite my way through it and work out the kinks, make sure the sound is good and the lighting is good. Now, right now, I have no good lighting because I'm sitting the wrong way. I'm usually
There
sitting.
you go. There's the studio.
I'm usually sitting this way, which is, the lighting is a little better. So I got to set up my. You learn about these things that you otherwise don't have to worry about. And I had to get extra lights, and I had to get extra adapters for my phone to get the sound right, and then really work how to, what's the most effective way to publicize this and all that kind of stuff. So I'm busy doing that, and I'm working on a rock and roll record right now.
Really? That I would love to hear. Are you
Oh,
taking stuff like, are you picking from some, like, say, Richie Blackmore and Jeff Beck and some of their tones and the way they
no,
play, or
no.
is it totally?
This is not my record. Is an artist that I found, Eileen Arden, and everybody, if you guys get this, check out Eileen Arden. She has a Facebook page and a website. You should follow her. She's a phenomenal singer. My percussionist Oliver Brown turned me on to her, and she is kind of, I would maybe, if to give you a ballpark, somewhere between Pat Bennett, Melissa Etheridge, Stevie Nicks, somewhere in that vein.
Those are three heavy hitters.
Yeah, and she has a voice that is unbelievable. This girl can sing her heart out, and she's a great writer. I mean,
Wow.
she has all, and she looks good. I mean, she checks all the boxes. So I produced one song for her, and it's just a killer tune. When I played it for the record label, they were just blown away. And so now we're doing the whole record. We actually, in January, we went up to Lake Tahoe. They have a guest house up there, and just as a writing retreat to write some songs. So we work, and we got about 19 songs in the works, and we're going to choose the best 12 probably to do a record. And it's a lot of fun. And yeah, I mean, I got to getting to use my plexi lead tone on the Bogner amp and really crank it up. So it's a lot of fun. It's different. It's not smooth jazz, but if you never heard me play rock, there's on at Nils Music Productions. Is just a little static website I have for my production work, and there is samples for the Spirit Awards.
Mm.
I did the music a few years back for the Spirit Awards show, and there was like independent. The theme was independent indie rock kind of thing.
Right.
So I had, and they didn't want to license any music, so that I would listen to this and do music like this. So they had me to write and produce tracks that were more like Chili Peppers and
Right.
other stuff, and it was a lot of fun. It got me to rock out a little bit. So that's the only thing out there right now that has me doing that kind of stuff. But yeah, this record's going to be something, and I'm digging into the strings on that one.
Well, the thing is, you and I grew up in the same era with Deep Purple and the Stones and Zepp and everybody, and
Yeah.
very few rock singers that can actually sing. To me, the first one that jumps out at me is Freddie Mercury. I mean, he was
Mm-hmm.
God. He could sing anything. Another one who was very underrated was Brad Delp of Boston. Unfortunately, we lost Brad a few years ago. But like I said, there's very few. And if she can sing, that's half the battle right there. Because when you think female rock and roll singers, you don't think of too many. You think of Pat Benatar, Stevie Nicks, Ann Wilson, and then you're starting to, okay. But like you said, if she can sing, I'm really going to check her out. If she can sing, she's got half the battle done.
Yeah, no, this girl can sing. I mean, she's getting to me like close to Adele
Oh my goodness.
power as far as her vocal performance. I mean, She's serious.
Does she now Adele? When you see Adele sing, she gets into it. You can feel the emotion when she sings. It's kind of like
Mm.
with musicians when they're playing. You can tell. You can
Yeah.
feel the emotion from them. Is she the same way with her vocals?
Yeah, and it's still stuff that I'm developing right now. I mean, as I'm saying, right now we're starting on the lead vocals, and I'm getting to know the artist.
Right.
She, how much can I get out of her? So I want to see how far I can, because certainly, I mean, sometimes I got some songs where her original scratch vocal is better than what I, after 5 tries, can redo in the studio. So she is one of those that has moments that are where her initial feeling is just so strong and so convincing that with all the technology you can't really improve upon it, and you just gotta go with what she had, and what's there is absolutely phenomenal. you know some of the songs, I mean, some of the ballads are just like brought me to tears,
Wow.
and then the power she has in the more rock and roll stuff um, is absolutely fantastic.
That I think you may be onto something. I mean, you're not just a guitar player. You
Hmm.
do it all. It's like one stop shopping with Nils. You know what I mean? I mean, you
Yeah.
can, hey, let's cut a record. Okay, I can produce it. I can arrange it. We're good here. Which that's what I like about somebody like you who can do it all. And you're discovering other artists like her. Which that's what's lacking in today's music. I don't get me started on a lot of modern music because I don't care for it. But we need these independent artists and people who really have that passion. Not
Mhm.
just to go out and do an 80,000 seat gig with 8,000 dancers and a lot of backing tracks and
Yeah, I hate the synchronized swimming on
oh,
stage
yeah,
stuff.
thank you,
I'm
thank
sorry.
you.
Just give me a girl and a microphone and 4 musicians behind her and let them do the music. All that other stuff. Oops, is my
Oh,
camera.
that's all
I
right.
kind of lost my camera here. I got too excited here.
You didn't burn one over there, did you? You know what I mean? That's for later.
Yeah,
But
it's too early in the day. I still
too
gotta go.
early in the day. But honestly, I will talk about this. When I was younger, back in the 70s, we'd go to gigs and you'd burn a joint, and honestly, and you hear things differently, and you hear it's your mind. It opens your mind, and you can hear different things. And that's the way I used to listen to music when I was a teenager. Put the headphones on, smoke a joint, and it's like, wow. You
Well,
hear.
that's why they say some of the greatest stuff has been produced under the influence of
I,
marijuana.
I know it's crazy, isn't it?
But just I think Dark Side of the Moon, which I consider to be one of the best records of all time, would have
I
never
agree.
have happened without it.
It's yeah. You listen to Dark Side, and I mean, Dark Side is what, almost 50 years old now, and it sounds just as good today as it did
I,
when they
w-
released it.
I had this discussion a couple of years ago with my wife. We listened to old records that we had, and we have brought our turntable out and said, let's listen to some of these old records. And some, they just really did not hold up. They sounded old and dated. You put on Dark Side of the Moon, it could have been done last year.
Exactly.
Just, uh, I mean, my hands off to the producer. Um, Parsons, Alan Parsons produced the record. It was just absolutely phenomenal, and the musicians on it, the way it was done, the creativity, the sounds. It's just, yeah, it's a masterpiece.
Well, Alan Parsons, he's told this story, and I've heard him tell this story. The song "Time" off Dark Side. He said he had one hell of a time trying to get the clocks to start dinging and ringing
In rhythm.
all the way he wanted. And he says he was like pulling his hair out, and it finally clicked. But with Pink Floyd, you had four genius, well, five if you want to count. Sid was beyond; he was
Mhm.
far ahead of everybody else, and of course, he kind of lost it. But you had four genius musicians who played off each other, and you can listen to Animals, and you got to listen to it in headphones because it
Yeah,
takes you in different directions. Each
yeah.
song on that record.
No, I know. I mean, there's a certain creativity. I mean, I'm not. I don't subscribe that you need to smoke something to write songs, but it does help. It puts you in a certain state of mind. I usually, I mean, sometimes I get very creative because all of a sudden I get ideas they're just coming from a different place, you know.
That
Uh, Goldfinger was written while I was stoned, uh, from the last record, yeah. And on this one too. I mean, it's usually. I mean, I notice I'm playing the slower songs because it kind of slows you down a little bit. It's usually not an up-tempo funk song, but the slow and sonic and soulful songs, a lot of them, get the inspiration that way. But it slows me down into my technical abilities and troubleshooting problems on the computer, the recording business. So it's like you can't.
can't get too out there.
I can't be always wasted while I'm here in the studio. I got to be able to, show the equipment who the master is, and if I don't get a signal, if I get too stoned, then I don't know, how to troubleshoot and solve problems, and that doesn't helpful either.
Well,
So
no,
you gotta, find what it's good for, and use it. Don't let it use you. That's how I approach it.
well, you've been doing this a long time now, and you've got your chops down. You know what you want. You know how to play, which that's half the battle. You like I
Yeah,
said, you have the ideas in your head, and you quickly bang out a riff or whatever, and then you start building on it. And I'm really looking forward to hearing the next album. This one is awesome, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you've got to come up with. When we stop, can you hang on for a few minutes? I want to talk to you about something off air, if that's
sure,
okay.
absolutely.
So I've been chatting with Nils here. Get his new CD, Caught in the Groove. God, I sound like a radio station, but
Yeah,
you will not regret it. It is it's phenomenal. And he, if you just want, to have some social distancing with friends, put it on, have a little barbecue. It'll take you in different directions, from the funk to the city grooves to the Pacific Coast Highway groove.
yeah.
Nils, I appreciate this, buddy.
Oh.
It's
And
all.
I just want to let everybody know they can listen to the whole record on my website if they go to nilsmusic.com and go to the music shop where I sell the CDs. You can listen to all my tracks. I did it like an old school music store. We can listen to the whole album before you buy it. And if you just want to go there, God, I keep doing that. Sorry about that. If you just want to go there and check it out, you're welcome to do so. And I also wanted everybody to, just know to maybe follow me on Facebook at Nils Guitar, or the YouTube channel Nils Guitar, or the mailing list nilsguitar.com. So it's Nils Guitar and Nils Music are the two things to remember to get in touch with me online.
And he will answer you too. He answered me, and I was surprised and pleasantly surprised. And he and I've been emailing for a few years now. And like I said, I've seen Nils live a couple of times, and looking forward to seeing him. And before we go, tell you've got a phenomenal band. You've got some great
Mhm.
players with you. Talk a little bit about your band.
Well, the core of my band are really Clydeen Jackson and Oliver Brown. So Clydeen Jackson is one of the first session singers in Los Angeles, and with that, probably in the world. She's one of the two girls who did all the vocals for the movie Avatar. That these huge choirs were done by two women. Clydeen was one of them. Hans Zimmer loves her because she's just such a precision, incredible singer. She's done more movie soundtracks that I have seen. She probably done like 200 movies soundtracks where she sings on it. She sings on the Grammys, but you don't see her. She's in the choir and all that kind of stuff. So she's a phenomenal singer, and she is a great keyboard player, very tasty, beautiful accompanist. So she plays Rhodes and sings in my band. Oliver used to be original member of Casey and the Sunshine Band. He was with Casey on the initial when they came out and became big, and then later he went to Leo Sawyer, and then he played with Mick Fleetwood. So now he plays with me. I met them when I produced their record. They had a little trio band together with Harold Payne, a band called Gravity 180, and I produced the record for them. And we just hit it off so well that that I had to incorporate them into my band. And then on the rhythm section, it fluctuates a little bit. My LA guys are usually Daryl Williams, who's very known on bass, and maybe Tony Moore on the drums. On the Bay Area, I played with Tony Saunders because he's from the Bay Area. So I might use local musicians on bass and drums a lot of times when I know some that are some, usually each region has some really heavy hitters. And if I find a solid bass player and a solid drummer in a certain area, D-Moore is another guy I like to use up in the Bay Area. So I use them and then just travel with Clydeen and Oliver. Sometimes also Johnny Britt is in my band. Johnny is just a wonderful musician. He has his own career coming up as a contemporary jazz artist. He was in a band called Impromptu, be more on the R&B jazz side. He's also one of the Imperials from Little Anthony. But he is a wonderful trumpet player, singer, and keyboard player. So he's a great addition to the band. He's doing all the horn sections that you hear on my record. That's Johnny. He lives down the street, so he's always over, or it used to be before we quarantined. So he was a guy I like to have in the band because he and Clydeen can really bring the vocal part up.
You had a female drummer last July when you were up here.
Yeah,
she was phenomenal.
Yeah, I met her. We did a festival in Long Beach with. She played with Pretty in Pink. Not Pretty in Pink. Jazz in Pink. Sorry. And it happened that my drummer Tony was running late, and we had our sound check spot was coming up, and he wasn't there, so she jumped in to sub for him just for the sound check. And I really liked the pocket and the groove that she had. And so and she also has her dad lives up in the Bay Area, so she's there a lot of times. And when I contacted her, I said I'm going to do a gig at Yoshis, and she said, "Oh, I'll be up there." And so I was glad I'll be able to use her on that show.
I'm telling you, people, you got to go see Nils when he comes to your town, and once this pandemic is lifted, you will not regret it. Nils, as always, it's good to talk to you. It's nice to see you face to face again, not just at a gig where we're going here and we can actually sit down and talk for a few minutes. So if you'll hang with me, if there's anything else you want to say, if you'll hang with me for a few minutes after we stop recording.
No, just thank you and appreciate you help spread the world. And please, everybody, support the music. Get yourself a copy of the album. Check out my show Saturday night 6 p.m. or LA time at Facebook Live at Nils Guitar.
Nils, thanks again, buddy, and we will be talking with you soon. Thank you.